Okay, so in this example here, we're going to be talking about how to find the polynomial if we are provided the zeros of that polynomial. Now remember, the zeros are where the polynomial is going to be crossing the x-axis, okay? So they give us the following zeros. They give us 2, -3, and -1. So what you have to remember is, where did these come from, right? So this comes from factoring a polynomial and then solving. That's where you're going to get the zeros. So in other words, I'm going to rewrite this with a variable of x, and I'm going to put x is equal to 2, x is equal to -3, and then x is going to be equal to -1. And so what we want to do here is reverse engineer it, okay? We want to go in reverse. So where did these zeros come from? Well, again, we want to put it back in factored form because that's essentially where they came from. So if I have x equal to 2, to put that back in factored form, that's going to be x minus 2. So in parentheses, I'm going to put x minus 2. And then this one here, x is equal to -3. Well, putting that back in factored form, that's going to be x plus 3. And this one here, putting this back in factored form, that's going to be x plus 1. And again, typically, when you factor a polynomial, it's always equal to 0, right? So you have 3 factors here, 1, 2, and 3. If you were to solve those, that's where you're getting these zeros from. But what we're doing here is going in reverse, okay? So now what do I need to do? Well, I need to go ahead and multiply the whole thing out. Then I'll get the polynomial with those zeros. So we're going to go ahead and do that. And you can break it down into parts. Like I'm going to do these 2 binomials right here first, and then I'll work on this one, okay? So again, if I do these 2 binomials right here, you can do FOIL first, outside, inside, last. So again, FOIL. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and go for it. So if I do first, that's going to give me x times x, I get x squared. So x squared. Outside will give me plus 3x. Inside will give me -2x. And then last will give me -6. Okay? From here, we want to combine like terms. We have that right here and here. So I end up getting x squared plus x minus 6. And then I have x plus 1 still on the outside. So times x plus 1. So from here, we have to take the binomial and we have to distribute into that trinomial. And I'm going to take this first term right here, which is x, and I'm going to distribute 3 times into that trinomial. Then I'll take this 1 and I'll distribute 3 times into that trinomial. So I should have 6 terms in the end, okay? So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do x times x squared. That will give me x cubed. So I get x cubed. Then I get x times x, I get plus x squared. X times a -6, I get -6x. And now I have to do my 1. So remember, 1 times anything will always return whatever you're multiplying by. So all I have to do is rewrite this trinomial right here, okay? So that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm going to put plus x squared plus x and then -6. And all we have to do now is combine like terms. So let's go ahead and do that. I have this x cubed. I can't combine it with anything, so I'm just going to write x cubed. Okay, this is gone. Then I have x squared. I have an x squared here and an x squared here. When I combine that, I get plus 2x squared. So that's gone. That's gone. Here I have -6x and a positive x. That will give me -5x. Okay, that's gone. That's gone. And I'm left with the -6. I'll go ahead and put that on the end. And we're done. All right, so this is the polynomial with those zeros. So if you were to graph this polynomial, you would see that it's crossing the x-axis at 2, -3, and -1. All right, let's go ahead and try another example. So here's the next one, and this one actually has 4 zeros, meaning we're going to have to write out 4 binomials here, okay? And again, we're going to use x as a variable. So I have 5, -2, 1, and 4. So putting that back in factored form, I'm going to have x minus 5, okay? Then I'll have x plus 2. I'm just going right in order. Then I'll have x minus 1. And then I'll have x minus 4. Now, if you need to, go ahead and write out what they are to the right-hand side of these zeros, right? You could write x is equal to 5, x is equal to -2, x is equal to 1, and x is equal to 4. If that makes it easier for you, go ahead and do that. That way you know, okay, I have to move these constants over back into their factored form, okay? And that's what we have right here. So from here, we're going to multiply the whole thing out. So how I would do it, okay? I would multiply the two binomials right here. Then I would multiply these two binomials. And then once I have the answer to both of those, then I would multiply it all together. Okay? So this one's a little bit more work, but just make sure that you're doing your math correctly and it should be fine. So doing the first two binomials, I'm going to get x squared. Then I get plus 2x minus 5x, and then minus 10. And again, I'm using FOIL here, okay? So I can go ahead and combine like terms right here. I have 2x minus 5x. That's going to give me x squared minus 3x minus 10, okay? So that one simplified down. This one here, if I do FOIL, I get x squared minus 4x minus x, and then plus 4. Okay, combine like terms here and here. I'm going to get x squared minus 5x and then plus 4. Okay, we're going to put this in parentheses. We're going to put this one in parentheses. And now we have two trinomials that we have to multiply out. Okay, so when it's all said and done, you should have 9 terms here. And you know that because you have 3 terms here, 1, 2, 3. Then you have 3 terms here, 1, 2, 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, meaning when I multiply this whole thing out, I should have 9 terms at the end. So make sure that you do in fact have 9 terms at the end. That's a quick little check you can do to make sure you have done the problem correctly, okay? But we're just going to go for it. So we have to multiply 2 trinomials. You're just going to distribute these terms one by one. So for example, I'm going to start with x squared here, and I'm going to distribute 3 times into this trinomial. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to go here, and I'm going to go here. Okay, and then I'll go into negative 3x. I'll do the same thing, and then negative 10, same thing. All right, so doing that first term there, x squared, I get x squared times x squared. That will give me x to the 4th power. Next, I get negative 5x cubed, and then I get plus 4x squared. Okay, good, there's 3 terms. Now we go into the next term, negative 3x. So here I'm going to do negative 3x times x squared. That will give me negative 3x cubed. Negative 3x cubed. Then I'm going to do negative 3x times a negative 5x. I get plus 15x squared. So plus 15x squared. And then I do negative 3x times 4. I get negative 12x. Okay. My last term here is negative 10. So negative 10 times x squared. I get negative 10x squared. Negative 10 times a negative 5x, I get plus 50x. And then negative 10 times 4, I get negative 40. Okay, so from here, you just have to combine like terms, and then you will have your final answer. Okay, so starting with the highest exponent value, I have x to the 4th power. I cannot combine that with anything, so I'm just going to write it. I have x to the 4th power. Okay, and I'm done with that term. I'm going to go ahead and cross it out. Then I go x to the 3rd power. Can I combine that with anything? Well, right here and here I can combine. I have a negative 5x cubed and a negative 3x cubed. That will give me negative 8x cubed. So negative 8x cubed. All right, that's done. That's done. Now I go into x squared. What can I combine that with? Well, I have a few of them. I have 4x squared. I have 15x squared. And then I have negative 10x squared. So 4x squared plus 15x squared, that will give me 19x squared. So I'm done there. So I'm at 19x squared. And then minus 10x squared. I'll get 9x squared, positive 9x squared, right? So positive 9x squared. All right, so we're done with all those terms. Now we go on to x. I have a negative 12x and a positive 50x. So right here, negative 12x, positive 50x. When I go ahead and combine those, I get positive 38. So I get plus 38x. Okay, we're done here. We're done here. And then I just have negative 40, so minus 40. Done, right? So here's the polynomial with those following zeros, right? So if you were to graph it, you would see that you have these 4 zeros here, 5, negative 2, 1, and 4. Okay, let's try one more example. So here's our last example, and this one's actually easier, okay? But it's a little bit different because one of your zeros is actually 0. So we're going to write it out. It's x is equal to 0, x is equal to 1, and x is equal to negative 7. So think about how you can put this one back in factored form. Well, that's going to be x minus 0. So when I put it back in factored form, it's going to be x minus 0, which we know is really just x, right? So rather than writing x minus 0, I'm just going to write x here. So getting rid of this here, I'm just going to put x. That's what it is. And then this one here, x equal to 1. Well, when I put that back in factored form, that's going to be x minus 1. Okay? And then right here, we have x is equal to negative 7. Putting that back in factored form, we have x plus 7. Okay, so now all we have to do is multiply it out. Now I'm going to work on the binomials first, and then I'll go ahead and distribute this x here after I'm done. So doing the binomials first, x times x, I get x squared. Okay, then I get plus 7x minus x, and then minus 7. And now we can combine like terms here and here. So I get x squared plus 6x minus 7. Okay, put it in parentheses, and then I do have an x on the outside. We have to distribute. So that's pretty simple. Distribute 3 times, and you're going to end up with x cubed. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in a different color. I get x cubed, and then I get plus 6x squared, and then minus 7x. Okay, that's done. All right, so there's the polynomial with those zeros. So that is how you find the polynomial if you're provided the zeros. So again, you're just going to end up going in reverse order. Rather than factoring it, you're actually going to put it back in factored form and then multiply it all out. Now, we didn't talk about any zeros that are complex or imaginary. I actually have another video on that. So if you're confused on how to find the polynomial that has imaginary or complex zeros, go ahead and check out my video on that. I'll go ahead and link it in the description box below. That way you have access to that content. And that's pretty much it. So if you found the video helpful, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Also, make sure you subscribe to this channel so you get more math videos in the future, and I'll see you in the next one.